Yeah.
Okay. Director Barsati is absent. Director Burke? Present. Director Couch?
Present.
Director Mayo?
Here.
President Corbett?
Present. Can Director Burke lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions to the agenda. Thank you. You didn't like my knock. I'm sure, man.
We didn't want to have workman's compensation claim.
It was in the mail.
President Corbett, there are no additions to the agenda.
Any board members?
There's one comment or somewhat I want to make. On the 18th of August, we're going to have a wake for Dr. Bill Winterholm at Six River Brewery. It's 3 o'clock, and I would like everybody to come if they can.
All right.
3 o'clock, August the 18th. That's Dr. Bill's birthday.
Any additions to the agenda? Okay, can we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Can you call the roll? Remember, now I've got a gavel.
All right. Director Burke? Aye. Director Couch?
Aye.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
President Corbett?
Aye.
Passes.
We have no closed session scheduled, so we move to the next item of business, which would be public hearing. These items are quasi-judicial or legislative nature. No public hearing is scheduled. Let's go to C, public comment and written communications. These are communications that items not already on the agenda or relating to matters of policy. If you have detailed comments, it's very helpful to follow up or present a letter so that we can give true consideration to them. Is there any member from the public who wants to speak? Yes, please.
I'm on the agenda, so.
Oh, if you're on the agenda, hang in there. We're coming to you. There is none. Let that be reflected in the minutes. Let's move to the consent calendar.
President Corbett, I would like to pull D1.
Okay. Any other items? Can I have a motion for D2 and 3?
I move to approve?
Yeah.
I move to approve items D2 and D3 of the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Then you call the roll.
Director Burke? Aye. Director Couch?
Aye.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
President Corbett?
Aye. We'll come back to D1 and we'll call on the general manager to voice his comments on this agenda.
Thank you very much, President Corbett. I would draw your attention to page 10 of the agenda. It's the minutes for the June 5th board meeting, and at the bottom of the minutes where they're endorsed, it says Emily Abfalter, board secretary. Since that Emily is no longer employed by McKinleyville Community Services District, and I was present, I will endorse the minutes. So please reflect that the minutes should be modified to state Gregory Orsini, board secretary.
Page 10. That's what I have. Gregory.
Yeah.
I do too.
Never mind. So okay, so disregard everything that I said.
Hey, don't listen to him. Okay, with that, do I have a
You pay
motion?
attention to.
I I move to approve item P1.
Second.
Did you
Sorry,
turn the motion?
second.
Gentlemen,
Thank
second?
you.
Okay, oh my goodness, that's so slow. Okay, please call the roll.
All right, Director Burke. Aye. Director Couch.
Yes.
Director Mann.
Yes.
President Corbett.
Okay. E1, consideration of the Schellenberger appeal, page 56 of our packet. And I believe there's a handout of the journal, and I don't know whether you presented that or staff or somebody, but anyway, that relates to this agenda. Okay, you're up at the stage here, sir.
Well, the journal article is about Caltrans having to pay out $2 million because they didn't trim the tree appropriately. So that's something that doesn't happen to.
Yeah, can you just speak into the microphone? Or, yeah, like that.
The journal article is about Caltrans having to pay out $2 million because they didn't trim the tree properly and it fell and killed somebody.
Which article and what page?
Right there.
Lead article.
Which article and what page?
Right.
The lead article.
What article and what page?
Called absolutely preventable.
Would you like some time to read it?
No, I don't even know what page it's on. I've read the journal, I don't know what page. Okay, thank you.
Page 14, this is
thank
the
Thank you.
July 25th issue, 2019, issue 30.
Where'd you go?
So anyway, I contacted Greg management about a month ago regarding a recurring complaint that the two large pine trees on the western edge of our property, which is right over there, needs to be trimmed back severely, if not chopped down, before one or both falls of its own accord. We live in an over 55 senior-only park, Thunderbird Mobile Estates. I'm almost 70, my wife is 78. We've had to spend over $700 last year to cut the accumulated pine needles from these trees clean from our roof, over 10 large garbage bagfuls of needles. And if the situation does not change, next year it will probably cost us more. We live on a fixed income. You are our neighbors. Homeless people sleep behind these trees, urinating and defecating there because they cannot be seen as they are shielded by these trees, and even their toilet paper there for others to clean out. I believe we, as your neighbors, have some rights here. Greg said that we should hire an artist to prove what we say is true. He said the only reason we can get a tree down is to prove it is dying. These pine trees have very shallow roots, and as the trees get top heavy, the trees must eventually fall. A real disaster worth more than the price of taking them down and severely trimming them in the first place. Greg and his staff promised last winter we could expect results, and it's now towards the end of summer. No results, just excuses. The Chamber of Commerce head person told us, quote, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If there's no compromise here, what? Must we move out? We do not wish to, nor can we afford to. We are not residents of an assisted living facility. We are therefore bringing this to your attention for your help. Not just we are sorry, but that's the way it is. We've been here 10 years, and now the trees are 10 years higher. And I said, please put Jim Holder on the agenda while he resigned as manager, and the current manager, Chelsea Bryant, could not be here. She said it's going to regress. That's it.
Staff response.
So we're made aware of the issue with the huge, very large amount of pine needles that had fallen on Mr. Schellenberger's carport, and he had got in touch with James Henry, and James Henry went over there and looked at it and reported back to me, and we went out there and looked at the trees, and I honestly, the trees are in really good condition. I do understand that when the wind blows, that there's a significant amount of detritus that falls out of the trees, and it accumulates across the fence. in the yards of the people in the trailer park. I was basically following the historic decisions that the board has made in the past, and if there's no determination of the trees being a danger, that we wouldn't cut the trees down. That was my decision. In the process of making that decision, I informed Mr. Schoenberger that his recourse, of course, was an appeal that I follow policy and established procedures, and if he was not happy with my determination that this was his recourse, was to come in and talk to the board. So that's where we're at right now. My recommendation is that the trees are in good shape, other than the fact that when the wind blows, all the dead pine needles blow out of them. The branches the limb structure in the base of the trees did not, in my estimation, cause any sort of alarm. And I would just go on to say that I would hesitate to set a precedence to start cutting down trees because of perceived and not a real danger, and for the fact that pine needles are falling out of them, because we probably have several hundred trees throughout the district that if we were to basically set a precedence with those trees, that we would probably have to address with a lot of other trees.
Remember Remain?
Yeah, thanks. Could you refresh me? We have a tree cutting policy, but don't we also have, and my verbiage might not be correct, contractual obligation or a legal obligation with the county about when we cut trees and don't cut trees? We just can't go around cutting trees, right? They've got to be like dead and dying. Is that correct?
Well, there's multiple. I think what you're referring to has more to do with Central Avenue and the fact that in the county's right of way, nobody has authority to cut those trees down without getting a right of entry or an encroachment permit from the county. As far as just arbitrarily cutting down those trees, I'm not aware, but I might be wrong about the fact that we would have to get permits to cut those trees down. If it's the board's wish, I can hire an arborist to come in and give you a formal review of the condition of those trees.
I'm just curious about what our standards are. I've got a similar issue with similar type trees, which are much older, that I'm taking some down. And I had called the MD tree service to come and look at it the other day, and I'm taking some down. And he said I had to get a permit to take it down. Anyway, just,
Yeah.
Any other board member questions?
When you went to the site to look, or if you're familiar with it, I'm concerned about the shelter behind there. And
If you look out the window, it says 3 trees right there.
So there's
No,
a
those
place.
are the trees.
oh, that's right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't look.
So there's a claim that they provide shelter and people could be using the area as a toilet or whatnot.
These trees right here?
Did
Big
you
pine trees.
have you observed any of this?
Mine are 3 times that size.
No.
And they're about
No, and we do the best we can related to the park is day use only, so if there was anybody that was using the park overnight, they would be notified that they'd be given notice that they had to. And that includes people that try to park in there overnight and things like that.
Yeah.
We're fairly vigilant about that. I can't say that it's not happening, but if we were made aware of it, we would run them off.
There's someone there almost at least 3 times a
You
week.
got to step up to the microphone, sir.
There's someone there at night. There's someone there at night at least 3 times a week. Okay, it's been this way for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Nobody, the people who maintain the park don't ever stop them. And I think they're actually afraid of them. They don't want to. Okay, and we're afraid of them too.
Have you tried calling the sheriff's department?
What for?
Because it's illegal to be in the park after sunset.
And the sheriff's department told us that, well, what's the problem? And we say, well, they're there, but they saw your car come around, so they ran away. No, they're not there.
So you have to call the sheriff's.
Yes, we have.
And that's the same thing they tell us. I've got a big problem where I live in the road arena, side of the hill going down to Cloud Beach, and we've got anywhere from 15 to 100 staying in there at time to time, and they won't do anything. They don't do anything.
Well, I am a little first of all, it's a Monterey pine, is that correct?
We call them bull pine, but I don't know what
Yeah, they're Monterey's.
Yeah. Because they are notorious for being good, and then they get old and they flop down.
Right.
And they used to be highly recommended, and they aren't. I had one that went down and just paid $8,000.
No, those trees are young.
Yeah,
mine were planted in 64, 5, and 6, and they are bad.
Right. Well, this was the most healthy.
These are young trees.
In
It was a Monterey pine that was like 3 times the size of all the other trees. Now, I mean, people in the neighborhood would look up to this magnificent tree. It wasn't any sign of ill health. Its roots were shallow and got blown over. And so, after you have noticed, it is a matter of passing concern, but it's also a concern we can't afford to do this for 700 trees. But one thought I have is that I would like Parks and Rec to come up with a desired plan, so as some of these trees are removed, we don't replant with the same variety that it be replanted with shrubs or something else, so that we start getting fewer of these trees on borders. Because that's the problem, and if they look nice, I mean, like I said, I have everyone in the neighborhood looked up to this incredible crown Monterey pine, but it blew over, and
Yeah, I'm not so sure that these trees are a problem in terms of falling at all. But I do think it probably behooves us to think a little more long term in terms of that types of trees when they're a little bit smaller than that. That's to get rid of them if we can, because they are. We were so tickled to plant our trees when we planted them to get them to grow, and it provided us windbreak and shelter for our open arena. And now, every winter but they're like 4 times bigger than that. I've got lambs that are 80 feet in the air that are bigger than the leaves of this tree. They come down every winter, they tear out fences, they're bad. So these things do get bad.
They will, and those trees, to the best of my recollection, in fact, and James can back me up on this, while we're looking at those trees have been topped once already.
Yeah.
So those trees were topped. So we have done maintenance of those trees. And as far as it goes, when those trees are removed, they will be replaced with something else.
good. I'm glad you did that. And then it's on a hillside, so it may even be tilted this way.
They are tilted in this way.
Then that makes a huge difference, because it's very hard for the wind to lift them up. You'll do it, but it's hard.
Really, from the direction of the wind. Can I ask one more question?
I don't know after that.
I know the owner of this facility. Have we had any complaints from him or any comments from him?
No.
I think we'd be able to really chat with him.
And then the only other thing, and I'm not sure this is possible, I did it one time when I was in charge of a project with a lot of appraisals. Instead of getting a full appraisal, I had the appraiser give a snap appraisal. And I don't know whether we can have Marcus just look at all of them and say, these are obviously a problem. I'm not doing a detailed appraisal, but these 2 or 3 on the district property. If it costs too much, don't do it. But having to plan what we replan, and if we can get a snap appraisal with someone that's knowledgeable, sometimes they can be taught to do it. Sometimes they say hell no.
Minimum, that's $3,500.
Well, no, I know. That's why you want to. I have done snap things.
But they don't go in and chop a tree down. They got to go in and limb them up as far before they got their lift to go look for it.
I'm not talking about taking the tree down. I'm talking about looking at our stock of what 700 trees,
I got you.
and whether someone can walk by and say, "Gee, these are the 5 that I think they're leaning the wrong way, branches are a little twisted." That type of thing. If it can be done economically, I think that's worthwhile. And then, like I said, if we have a plan just to not replant them, and then be very vigilant if there's something that starts coming down.
Yeah. We keep an eye on those trees, and we talk.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be critical of staff. I'm just trying to get a programmatic way to look at 700 trees.
Do you have an idea how many of those little pine type trees we've got? We've got a lot of them around. I mean, they're everywhere.
We have hundreds of acres of property. I couldn't fathom, I guess, of how many of those trees.
And then I would
That's why the
exclude,
sewer plant is full of them down there.
and then I would exclude our parks, because they got a lot of tall trees in some of our parks, and you'd have to level the park to do it. So, but more, I'm talking about our nature parks, I guess, not our more, I was going to say civilized park, but our open park. Anyway.
I have a couple of
Yeah.
comments. So first, thank you for bringing this before us. You can tell there's a great discussion going on. I would like to follow up on the idea of a programmatic approach, and it reminds me of a concept that's been floating around in my head of perhaps we could have an advisory committee to the district. And, I'm floating this out there as an idea, no directive, but the idea that we could bring people in to provide professional opinion when they would do it on a volunteer basis and could help guide us with some land use management decisions. So this could be one of those cases where we wouldn't need to shell out to do an assessment of our trees if we had an advisory group of the session. But we don't have that, so it's just an idea. But my more relevant idea is if we start to develop this programmatic approach of looking at our trees, perhaps we should also consider ways to fund our vegetative management. Right now we fund open space management zones, and perhaps we should look when opportunities come up for grants or that could help fund some of our programmatic work. We can think about ways to continue to look at these issues. I think we've talked about liability issues, and so I think we need to start looking long term at what that ends up meaning for the district. And I hear you, living with big trees is anxiety provoking. I deal with it myself, and thank you for being here today.
We'd like to see them at least topped. It's been quite a while since they've been topped. So.
I thought our staff said they have been topped.
I'm sure they have.
But it's been a while.
It's been quite a while. So, yeah.
And that might be a compromise solution too, but one of the reasons to me that the district's has topped them and done some management things to limit potential fall.
The PG&E does come through with right way, and they cut the fence line because there is a power line that runs through there, so they manage that whole side of their fence. So the trees actually are heavy this way. So if they want to go, they're going to.
Where's the PG&E line to go through?
It goes
It runs
pretty much
down
over their fence
Oh,
line.
so the PG&E goes right.
So they were just out. They were just out there.
Problem solved.
I want to say 3 months ago, but they cut that fence line, all the limbs, and tried to hang over.
Yeah, but they don't reduce the height.
Right, they just get away from the lines.
Yeah.
So when I bought my house, I had some big Monterey pines in the backyard, and I got to print them all. It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
Monterey
immediately,
pines
right, immediately, yeah.
aren't native. They're an introduced species. Most of the pines around there are short pines. That's the native species. They don't get as huge as Monterey pines, but they were kind of planted back in the '60s, and you know, they were like the wonder trees back then.
You know,
Not this 4th of July, but the previous 4th of July, there was a barn in my neighborhood that was not in use, and it had a bunch of Monterey pines around it and a lot of needles on the roof, and a firework landed on it and burned the thing to the ground. So it is a significant, it's not a...
If my brain working right, David, I think the farm advisory, the ag advisory person brought us in, gave it to us the plan, and I'm pretty damn sure that's where we got it.
So anyway, I do see that, you know, the needles, it's not just a nuisance, it is an actual liability issue. And so that's kind of my output on it.
I would hate to see this board sued for, because they fell over on somebody and killed them, so. And maybe that's not going to happen soon, I'm not a
Right. You know, and obviously so do we, but there's no way that we can go around cutting down 4,000 trees.
Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Well, thank you. So we are holding the general manager. He's got an informal recommendation to the board to retop it. Let us know if there's any cracking or some signs of lack of health in the tree so we can get right on it. And then we will discuss. I realize the future seems a long time off, but we'll try and grow vegetation close to fences that's just not a tree.
I want to point out that my comment is simply a comment, not a directive or a statement of action or anything by the board.
Okay, I'm
When I
sorry.
said we can't cut, you know, that was just a personal statement.
Yeah, okay.
To be clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
E2, review current reserve policy, page 60. Colleen.
Is that audible? Yes. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided, take public comment, and discuss the status of the district's current reserves policy. Our current policy was adopted back in 2012, actually shortly before I got here. And when the district's operating situation was considerably different than it is now. In light of the changes in both the district's internal processes and the external operating environment, my assessment is that the current reserve policy has some fairly significant gaps. A review and revision would result in material benefits in both policy usefulness and I think also cash flow. So what we're proposing is to bring the policy for each type of reserve to the board for review, with the goal of adopting an overall revised reserves policy that provides the following. First, a clear rationale for the amount held in working capital and in each category of reserve, a clear method for how each reserve is calculated and what maximum cap, if any, should be in place for each type of reserve, policy guidelines for drawing on each reserve type, including signature authority and required documentation. There are no policy guidelines for that right now. And then for the general policy guidelines for how the non-current use reserves may be held and invested. So There are some types of reserves we keep in current working as part of current working capital because they get paid out during the year. For instance, compensated absences. Obviously, we don't want to have to make a draw on an investment account every time someone goes on vacation. That's a bit silly. But we do need to know for the reserves that are non-current use, it would be good to have some general policy guidelines for the investment. Right now, everything is sitting in Cal Trust, which is a perfectly acceptable, actually well-performed investment. It would be good to have that kind of documentation laid out in the following reserve categories would be included. The working capital and current use reserves include compensated absences, customer deposits, the pay-go category of capital improvements, and general what we call operating reserves. Other non-current use reserves would include the required debt reserves for loans and bond issues. We don't have too many of those. We only have one outstanding bond issue at this time, and its reserve is held at U.S. Bank, I believe. Catastrophe reserve, a rate stabilization reserve, the capacity fees reserve, and then, of course, the pension and OPEB reserves. And those I would suggest that they be held eventually, as we get this policy squared away and get the money moved appropriately. I would strongly recommend that the pension and OPEB reserves both be held in some type of section, IRS section trust. But those, that's, and I've brought information to the board before about that. But the other reserves need some risk assessments, some probabilities, some kind of clear rationale for the amount that we want to hold, because otherwise we have folks looking at our financials going, hey, you guys have, $10 million in cash. Why aren't you giving that back to the ratepayers? Well, we're holding it in reserve. Well, for what? And we need to be able to very clearly explain to me what kind of reserves we're holding and why we're holding them. So that's what I'm looking to do with this policy.
One other questions?
Well, thank you for bringing this before us. I think it's a great way to go. It's nice to have things clear in writing and policies developed. Are all of the reserve categories that we currently have, or are there any new ones in here?
We actually don't have a pay-go, a specifically stated reserve for the pay-go portion of capital improvements. That's expected to come out of working capital. But when we're looking at the working capital reserves, the policy itself should state that it should be sufficient to cover that amount, and there should be some general parameters provided for what that looks like. Or I would like to see that in.
And are there any reserves that are not captured in these categories that are outside of this?
Yeah, I would think the line also the repair and replacement might be one that we would put in there that's not there.
Well, and that would be separate from. We talked about that a lot, and I can't believe I didn't put it in the list.
I've looked at this 100 times, and it just popped into my head that it wasn't on there right now.
Well, that would also be in here, obviously, and that's actually consisting of two separate categories. One of them is the mainline replacement project reserve, which is a specific CIP project, but the other one will be a general repair and replacement reserve that's related to the PAYGO, but not the same.
Well, that answered my question. We already put the pipes in.
Yes.
I was thinking, oh, geez, we're putting
We've already started that.
I had one other question, and I'm sorry, you want to make a comment?
Go ahead.
You had to have pension reserves. I thought we had a goal, and this may be a transition thing, where we were going to get that transferred to retirement and out of the reserves.
That's what I meant by the Section 150 trust.
Okay.
That's not, it's, the Section 115 trust would be listed on our books. It would show the reduction in liability, but it is technically not legally owned by the district. It is owned by the people whose money is retirement
Right.
is in there. But it does get to be shown on our balance sheet because it does actually reduce the liability if we set it up and use it properly. The IRS has issued some guidance about that. It's not just a matter of, setting up an account, throwing some money in that and saying, good enough. They have some specific guidelines about how it has to be used in order to be legit.
Well, I know there are a number of questions, and IRS is being pressured because CalPERS is going this way, and I think they're going to come up with some solution. But I just wanted to go, our goal is sort of saying to the second we can't transfer it, and then it really wouldn't be on our books at that point. It would be transferred to a retirement account.
It would be transferred to a Section 115 trust.
Yeah. Okay.
And then how it's booked at that point in time, it would probably require us to go in and modify the reserve policy. But for the time being, we don't have a bucket for it.
Right. No, I'm okay with that, and it's better to have it here than not here. I just wanted to reaffirm, though, that it is transitory.
We have buckets for that. We have stuff in the buckets, but the buckets are not an IRS Section 115 trust,
Right.
and that is what I would eventually propose in the reserve policy be required for us to hold those monies.
And then I want to say, this is. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say this is a great idea. You brought it up, and because when we originally started off with just having true costs for the district as a goal, I thought it was a simple goal. We'd be done in 6 months. We're now in about 7th year, and it's taken so long that we got to go back and look at some of the early ones. But they do have to be. It's like a garden; it's going to get weeds unless we tend it and look at the assumption. So this is a key part of it, and I realize the concept of true value, the true cost that we're trying to deal with to make sure we're running a business like fashion. It's probably endless. We're probably on a treadmill, but it's really good to be on it because no matter whether we're up a little bit or down a little bit, we basically got the money there as opposed to many districts and many public entities don't have any money there. And they can say, well, you can't estimate it, and they're right, but we can do the best job we can. It's probably better than nothing.
There are actually some techniques for appropriately calculating and estimating, and part of that is going to involve the board deciding what level of risk is acceptable. The risk of the big one, the big earthquake, is one thing, but for instance, if you're looking at the catastrophe reserve, but the risk of the big quake and a flood and a major fire and a few other things all happening at the same time is vanishingly small. So reserves like that are not additive. And do you fund them to 70% confidence, 80% confidence, 90% confidence? That's a discussion that the board needs to have. The rate stabilization reserve policy. If the policy is the current practice, which is right now we're doing rate studies every 5 years as allowed by law, but that will go a long way towards mitigating rate shocks if that's written into the policy. And then that will allow us, that's what I mean by cash flow, it will allow us to reduce the amount of that calculated reserve because we're already, the operating, what we're doing is designed to keep that risk lower.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that one of the pieces of feedback I think we got from public comment on our strategic planning was that the public's interested in the district, I don't know how the wording was, but in the district having a plan for natural disasters or, essentially risk. And so I think one way that helps us is to know that we're doing this, not only for ourselves and our financial stability, but we can message that to the community as well. That's a really, it's a great action, sort of directly related to that feedback. And then I'm curious about the process that we're going to see, and if you put thought into how you're going to go about bringing this back to us.
One piece at a time.
The eat the elephants theory.
So I think that one of the things that Colin and I have had a discussion about related to this is, of course, and having a sea of information related to catastrophes for other agencies. And one of the things that I think that we see that for me that was pertinent was the people displaced and not buying water and sewer, and the impact that would have on our ability to be able to operate. So I think that having a rate stabilization fund is going to be very important, and it will fill that gap if we go from 100% of our revenues flow, our cash flow at 100% down to 30-40%, which in Lake they went from 100% down to 40% revenue stream just by the volume. And I would have to guess that probably Paradise probably experienced the same thing.
Yeah, they might have a little revenue problem.
Yeah, and so I think that those are very important things. And other things to consider is the fact that we don't have to have a gargantuan catastrophe reserve. What we will need is we will need to be able to bridge that time between the time that the accident or the catastrophe happens until we can start getting FEMA money. So we're going to have to be able to pay our bills, pay our contractors. Yeah, we have to expect that we'll have our crew, and we'll have probably any contractor we can get a hold of working around the clock, fixing pipes in the ground. So we're going to have to be able to meet accounts payable to the best of our ability, at least to keep people still willing to give us money on to give us money on time, or to give us parts and stuff on time. And so those are the things that we're going to bring back to the board and that we'll talk about. And when we come back to the board with those things, we'll have James and his team will have already weighed in and given us our best estimate on what it's going to cost us to be able to make those repairs and be able to still write checks while we're waiting to get money from FEMA and things like that. So those are all very important things. And I just our reserve policy that we have in place now it's fairly vanilla, and it works off of calculations that I see as a district, as an agency, we become more and more complex and we're more intricate than we were, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This basic reserve policy doesn't serve us well, and because of the way that it's set, there's absolutely no reason why we need to have $30 or $40 million in reserves. Our ratepayers probably would at some point in time say, yeah, you're not raising our rates anymore until you spend down some of that $40 million you got in reserves. So I think, and that's where we're heading with what's going on, applying this formula. So I think it's time. It's going to be very educational for the board, and I believe that when it's all said and over with, the board is going to have a very policy that's tailored exactly for the community services.
And I'm sorry, Member Van.
Yeah, a couple things. The last comment, we have 30 or 40 million in reserve. Governor Newsom going to go, how the hell can I get that money? So that's a definite reality for not just us, but across the board. But let me just say that our relationship that we've developed over quite some time with OES, our partnership with OES, is real beneficial in this. We've also That's all proactive stuff. Since the two big fires, the two largest fires, the state and FEMA and local agencies have come up with a training, pre-application planning and training process so everybody knows how these FEMA applications are done ahead of time, so that you're not learning how to do them. Bang! Now we got a thing. So that's a positive, and so I think in a lot of respects we're in a pretty good situation to support just what our general manager said, is that we really don't have to have that amount of reserves to cover the potential problems that could arise. I agree with that a lot, but that's my point of view.
Well, I think Colleen hit the nail on the head. You have to do a risk appraisal, and you don't want to be a trading cat. I mean, for want of a better word, probably just slandered the cat family. But, I was administering the medical fund, and there was self-insured, the deductible up to $10,000. And I told people, if we're out on a company picnic and a plane crashes and just kills us all, there's not enough money, although you might not want to worry about it in that situation. So, or a massive epidemic. They're just, some of these things, they're real, they're going to happen, but there's no way you can plan for it, because part of this is to be good for the district, good for our employees, and good for the customers. You go too far out and you aren't meeting those tests. And so there is a judgment on risk.
And quite frankly, to Colin's point earlier, the likelihood of having a major fire after a big earthquake is pretty high. That's a pretty
Well, and again, if it's going to be above a 9.7 earthquake, we'll never have a reserve. We might as well we're going to be like everybody else, picking up pieces, whatever's left. So, I don't want to be afraid of that either.
Fire will be a consequence of a large earthquake. Yes.
Can I ask one question here? Where are we at in our well inventory? We talked about that at different times. We've got a lot of water in the ground here that we're not using. Do we have our well inventory somewhat attainable space in case something happened, where it would be a really long time for we could get into those wells?
No. Okay. No, we don't have. There aren't enough wells that are in the condition to be produced. They're being produced, and we still from time to time, people will approach me related to, but the study that Winslow and Kelly did back in the 70s, there's not enough groundwater. We would need probably somewhere between 15 and 25 wells to be able to provide because of the way the aquifers run.
Anyway, so I think this is a tremendous program, and it's a very sound financial approach. And the holy grail of being perfect is not available, and the holy grail of being able to insure against all of life's negatives is not available. But if we start off with what's normal and what is adverse up to a certain point that we think is a reasonable balance, fine. But I think, first of all, very few public entities have actually what it costs amortized. So just that step is a tremendous one, even without endorsing additional risk.
Actually, a fair number of public entities don't even have a reserve policy, even the way we have one now, let alone doing this kind of work.
But I haven't seen almost how much it is there. And, okay, so did you get enough from us?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think it's exciting. Like I said, it's a culmination of 7 years' work. So now we get started again. All right. Make sure that Jan gets in the middle.
Does that mean you're with us for another 7 years?
Okay, consider the regular board meeting dates, time, and location for the 2020 calendar year.
I have a recommendation. Can I jump to subject to board comment and public comment? No.
I'll let you keep it brief.
Oh, well, I just have looked at the dates. I would like to propose that we take recess in July and that we move the January meeting to January 8th. Kind of jump to the...
That's not jumping at all, that's interesting, or, that's fine.
So this is just an information item, so.
Oh,
at this point in
okay.
time, so, but, in the context of, the notice that you're gonna get at the end of the meeting, you might wanna have in July.
But I do want to add that I suspect that January 1st will not be a successful day.
No, I like to move it to January, but we maybe need to move the July meeting till the next week.
I didn't comment on July, I'll comment on
So I understand that, I just commented.
Yeah,
on
okay.
July. You know, I'm saying July 4th.
So we got one the next week, do we have two for the next week?
Of what?
Right, but we're
Board
not...
members going the next week for July.
Of
I would support that if it came back in that manner.
And why would we want to move the July 1st meeting?
because a lot of people will be gone for the 4th of July. I plan on
David,
being
you
in
have a problem?
Washington,
I don't
D.C.
know. Either way is fine by me.
Okay, we have four don't favor the next week in July.
You were done.
Good.
There you go.
So when it comes back, that can be it, and when it comes back, it can be the 8th. Any other comments? Okay.
I'm going to be on vacation.
That won't work. Should we do
I guess we'll
the next week?
have to revisit it. It'll come back to us. for-
Yeah, it's going to come back. It's going to come back next week.
Well, we really looking at it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be in D.C.
Well, could you verify that?
Oh, yeah.
Because the
But you don't have to have me here to have a meeting for Christ's sake. Might have a better meeting for sure.
Yeah, and then you go much quicker,
I know.
more to the point. You do a great job. Okay. I don't see any point
Delay for this one.
to delay going to the next agenda item unless, okay? Item E4, consider attendance to the California Special Districts Association CSDA 2019 Annual Conference, September 24th, 5th through 28th, Anaheim, California. And we'll call on April Souza, CMC Board Secretary, to discuss.
All right, so this particular item is up for you to decide if to allow you guys to go. The recommendation is that you review this information and authorize any interested members to be able to attend. They're in the discussion item. You'll see that there is some generalized amounts there. Those are just to the best of my ability at this time. Once you actually make real reservations, it could be higher.
So I move to for us to allow any board members that feel it's worthy to go to the meeting.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any further discussion?
Public comment?
Certainly.
I know I will not be able to attend. I have a conflict on that date.
I have just one comment. This puts a slight amount of pressure on April. You need to give us a deadline because the cost will soar up if we wait to the last minute, and we've got bad habits that way. So give a deadline. We need to hear from you this way so we can economically make arrangements for you, and then you can some people complain to the general manager or myself.
So April went online and looked at the $300 to fly to LAX. When was that? Like a week ago.
A week ago.
It's $400 today. So anyway, for the same.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to.
And let me finish. And so, and if you don't, and there's only one flight to LAX, and if that flight fills up, then you're going to have to fly to San Francisco, and then you're going to have to fly to LAX, and it's going to be twice as much. So I would highly recommend that you decide and let April know before the end of the week. So I'm taking April off the hook.
Did everybody hear that?
And I don't know, and what I'm going to comment about, and I just brought this up several times, is that the sooner that we know these things are coming, the quicker we can get them to the board, the cheaper all of this is.
Right. Okay, so to go through it procedurally, we have a motion and a second, on authorization, and we need to have a roll call vote.
Yep.
We made comments, not part of the motion, that you better get your stuff in by Friday or forever hold your peace. And you can talk to the Reno general manager if he's not meeting up need. You don't do it. Okay, so with that, please call the roll.
Director Burke?
Aye.
Director Couch?
Aye.
Director Mann?
Yes.
President Corbett?
Yes.
What would you think about it? So I have a full day meeting on the first day, but just attending the next 2 days would probably be worth it. Consider that. Is anyone else planning on attending?
I'm going.
You're going?
Which meeting is that?
I just have a separate all-day meeting on the 25th.
Oh.
But the CSDA is the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th.
Yeah. So the way it works is the 25th. The 25th is the pre-conference.
Oh, okay.
The 26th is the first full day of the conference. The 27th is the next day of the conference, and the 28th is breakfast and out. So.
Okay, so that might work after all.
And again, just so everybody knows, it's really important for members to get trained. And this stuff seems intuitive, and then you go down to the courses and you realize how much you learn and how much better you are. And you always get a little smarter every course. And overall, they have very good instructors, and they get slightly different angles. And so it does really improve your performance as a board member. And knowing how to act in public is part of the job. Although the green glasses, I thought were,
I got a pair of those.
yours are orange.
I've got one. I got one.
Well, I won't mess with you in glasses. Okay. Did we?
You're good?
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So the next item is annual board self-evaluation review and discussion, and I'll call on April Souza to discuss.
All right, so I received everybody's self-evaluation. I tallied them. There was one item that only received 4 votes, I guess, or four numbers. One person didn't comment on that one, and then there was one that there was in the middle. So you'll see a couple of different tallies there. But it's there for your review, and if you have any questions or comments.
Well, we all appear to be pretty strongly in the 4s, which is positive. Is somewhat agreed, and often a lot of 5s in there too. So it appears we're mostly in agreement with all of these statements.
I had one that I'm a little puzzled by. While considering short-term administrative matters, are you focusing on long-term and significant policy issues and impacts? I read a report pretty high on that. Even the whole discussion of funding the pipe for 75 years. And so I was a little surprised we came in so low on that. And I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, but does anyone care to enlighten?
I
The
feel
board over
there's
there?
like, I thought we did actually.
Yeah. There are concerns in that area? Okay. And then we have working relationship with other board members, 4.1. That's barely in the boards. We need to get that a little stronger. The rest is, we're a little slow in following trends, and I think we're following trends, but maybe we're on that too. I feel like we're, I was going to say pretty trendy, but not put the right way, but that we do try and follow the demographics. And I also want to say the courses down south says here's what the millennials are going to do. And of course there are gross generalities, but they do tend to capture changes in the workforce. And
it's hard to tell. I'm curious about that as well. What one person thinks is a trend that we're following, somebody doesn't, that somebody might even identify as a trend different than what we've got.
yeah. Well, all I can say is if you've got a trend you care about, make sure you discuss it with other board members. That would be a really helpful way for us to address it, pretty easy, and will keep us on our toes. Any other comments? Okay. Item E6. There's no need to.
I thought before we left on that.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, David.
So on the comments, I had one that is the last bullet under comments. It says county affordable housing be proactive.
Yeah.
And I said that because I read this article about a week ago that the county is planning to form a corporation to build public housing. And if they do that, that will be in McKinley, I'm assuming. And so
Likely, yeah.
we kind of, I think, need to be proactive and say,
good point.
we don't want it wherever you want it. We want it.
I think your read is pretty hard for some of that too.
Yeah.
In the Cutting area and like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, if the county, has this requirement, and then it never gets built in the county because they don't have any agency that, can support or do it, and they're planning to change that.
Yes.
So I think we really need to communicate with them and say, we don't want you putting we had a lawsuit with them, and we don't want to get in that situation again.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Dave, because a whole bunch of discussion, not to necessarily supporting that, but a whole bunch of discussion and about done a whole bunch of that, and we all considering what's the term I'm calling the community center,
The town center.
the town center. And believe me, that's where a lot of that's being looked at.
Well, there's a significant amount of that area that's 30 units per acre.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, but I think the big point is it's
appreciate you
coming,
bringing it up.
and it's coming statewide. The governor's very enthusiastic. I think he's going to fund $1 billion at the state level. Of course, that's probably $2 for us by the time we get our per capita, but it is happening, and I do think Humboldt County will make a response better than a lot of places. And we do have some space in the big space places, McKinney, so that's a really good one to bring up. Any other comments? Okay. E6, consider approval of an agreement between McKinneyville Union School District and McKinneyville Community Services District for the provision of after-school leaders to the 21st Century Community Learning Center after-school program at Dallas Perry Elementary School and Morris Elementary School. You have to get educated just to read the title.
That's Leslie, it's my wording, sorry. So this is a renewal of an agreement that we entered into for the 2018-19 school year. It was the first year, it had some hiccups, but it turned out okay. So staff recommends the board review the information provided, take public comment, and authorize the board president to execute the agreement.
How much questions, board member? I just had one. How much will this this in the budget, or will this increase your budget revenue?
It is in the budget.
Okay.
It's in the budget, but it's equal on both sides. On the expense side, it's equal to the revenue side. So really,
It nets out.
it nets out. It nets out as a zero impact on the budget, but it does provide about 0.4 of a full-time employee. So it does help. It does help us keep people employed.
And this is also follows a little bit the pattern I told you was with another organization where it got taken over by the schools, and then the other schools had trouble doing it. They hired the organization a little bit. Finally, a few years later, they turned it all back. So keep plugging in there.
Yeah, this is the second year of a 2-year grant. Whether the school district gets the grant renewed for another 2 years, they'll find out, I guess, at the end of the school year.
Good. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve item E6.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Do I hear a roll call?
Director Burke.
Aye.
Director Couch.
Aye.
Director Mayo.
Yes.
President Carter.
Yes. So, 94, consider approval of professional services agreement with GHD to perform Phase 3A of the main line replacement and rehabilitation master plan, attachment 1, professional services agreement. And I'll call on the general manager.
Thank you. And I would like to thank James for doing this agenda item. James took care of this. It's very comprehensive. So at the April 4th meeting, the board reviewed and approved the phase 2 of the master plan. I would focus on laying out the capital improvements plan and projected budgets and schedules for both the water distribution and the sewer collection systems over the next 50 years. Phase 3 we'll build off of phase 1 and 2 master planning efforts. Phase 3 of the master planning effort will consist of assessing the portions of the system. So basically, to summarize, the master plan, we decided that it was going to cost somewhere around $100 million to replace the pipe, the water pipe, and $100 million to replace the sewer pipe. And the way the schedule was created was we're going to start with the biggest pipes and work our way to the smallest pipes. So in phase 3, what we're going to do is we're going to become more granular in our prioritization of the pipes. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go out and we're going to classify the soils, and then we're going to identify where those classifications of soils are. And then we're going to, instead of sampling hundreds of locations for pipe, we're going to sample 30 locations of the pipe. Take a coupon out of the pipe and then analyze it for the condition of the pipe. And then in that way we'll be able to then apply that basic soil characteristic everywhere it occurs in the district, and making some assumptions that the pipe is going to be in that same condition in all those locations, and thereby defining more of priority places where we're going to need to replace pipe at. And then that'll basically be phase 3A, and then phase 3B will be soil testing and things like that. So that will get us through this phase of operation. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and authorize the general manager to execute the professional services agreement with GHD to provide services to perform phase 3A of the mainline replacement rehabilitation master plan, which is attachment 1, not to exceed $38,500, and with a 10% contingency that would bring the maximum that we would request through this action item to be $42,350. But the contract is not to exceed $38,500.
I really appreciate how we've been going about the mainline replacement and rehabilitation plan. And I'm curious about the method of testing the soils and, pulling samples from the pipe. Is that just an industry-wide standard, or was it something developed locally because of our particular soils? Or
It's an industry standard, but what we'll do is we'll go out and we'll so we have a fairly robust idea of the geology here, and so we can go out and we can grab samples in those distinct geology areas at those depths where the pipes are at, and then that soil will be analyzed. And then once that soil is analyzed, it will be applied against the matrix that we'll be able to tell by the chemical composition of the soil what kind of corrosion factors that it would have on the pipes. And in that way, then we can make assessments that this pipe should be in this condition when we dig it up, and then we'll go out and we'll look in those areas and then field verify that those assumptions are actually correct.
is the geologic information from like USDA soils maps, or is it in-house technical expertise?
No, so the soil classifications will come out from USGS, but the actual sampling, we'll go out and actually collect field samples to then classify the soil. So the corrosion coefficient of the soils is unknown.
Right, so you'll be making a correlation.
You'll be making a correlation between the type of soil and the corrosion coefficient of the soil.
I'm posting stuff in prior meeting thing with painting the seeds. But we put this pipe in, we don't know what we had, we don't know what soil was like when we put this pipe in the ground.
No, they didn't collect samples.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I did. That's all. Okay.
I have one other thought that may get rejected for creating excessive burden for the staff, and that's their discretion. But in taking the soil sample at the beginning, two things to look for. One was the pipe installed according to specifications, and the two, the contractor set the specifications. And setting whether it's into specs, I think, is pretty important. But that's pretty much, if we have those files, we're getting very close to an AI file when those programs are streamed out, because they'll read the contracts, they'll read the specs, and they'll read the soil types, and they'll read the knowledge of the corrosion based upon like 200 districts or so. So we're not there yet. I don't think it's wise to invest in the new software technology that's learning, but the more we have files set up for when that day comes, and it is coming quick, that would be good things. But also, I do want staff to check, did the contractor put it up to specs? Because sometimes they don't. That's a huge problem with pipes.
Yeah. So the pipe. So what you'll find when you look at the construction reports is that the pipe was all put in spec to the standard.
Yes, no, I know, but
because they wouldn't let it backfill it. So if that's really the case, I would be surprised. But that is what it is, and we do have all the records. We do have all the records for the pipe.
And I'm not saying being nitpicky about it, but if there's something that's significant, we ought to note that just for our records.
Right. But one of the things that we will be doing is all this data will be imported into our GIS system, so that it will be digitized, and as the technology avails itself related to AI, it will be available.
Oh, that's tremendous, because we're set up. A lot of places got to hunt for that stuff, can't find that stuff, and so if we have everything laid out, when the software technology gets reliable, cost affordable, we're set to go.
Right.
Great. Okay, any further comments? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion motion that we approve professional services agreement with GHD to perform Phase 3A of the mainline replacement and rehabilitation master plan.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Burt?
Aye.
Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
President Corbett?
Yes. I just want to check here, make sure I'm on the way.
Page 110.
It's E8? Yes. Approved resolution 2019-21, authorizing the acceptance and coordination of a quitclaim deed for real property located in McKinneyville, California, parcel G, Central Estates, 2A, Greg City, General Manager.
So parcel G was irrevocably offered for dedication and fee to the county of Humboldt for detention basin, associated drainage facilities, public trails, and access thereto and public purposes, together with the right to convey said parcel G to McKinneyville Community Services District as part of the final map. This is it's been a while since we brought one of these already, and this is the second one that we're bringing to the board. We basically, there's an assessment for this property already that's part of an open space maintenance zone for Central Estates, and this is basically, we're asking the board staff recommends that the board listen to the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and adopt resolution 2019-21 to authorize the acceptance and the recordation of the claim deed for the transfer of APN 508371027 for Central Estates Phase 2A parcel G.
So did I hear you right that we've already have an open space maintenance zone here, and now the property's coming back for us to accept ownership of the property?
Yes.
I wonder if can we pull this up on Google Maps or Google Earth, or does anyone know the proximity of like the route of the Midtown Trail as it?
If you go to page 116.
Yep, I've got the map.
The Midtown Trail is actually on Heartwood in this area, and then you can see those green lines are actually spurs off of the kind of our off of Heartwood, but the Midtown Trail actually runs along Heartwood in this location. Crosses this green line down below is the Midtown Trail, and then you cross the street, and then you're on Heartwood. You're on the Midtown Trail, and I believe the Midtown Trail then curves up and goes around whatever the street is further to the
east, and then
to the east,
would turn and
then head to the north.
Great. And I've mentioned before that this little area off of Heartwood, where it's to the left there, is a flat area that could be big enough for a top lot if it were able to happen in the future. So I'm really supportive of the agenda item. Of this agenda item.
And I just want to confirm that our ownership of it, that there will be assessments on the homeowners to pay for costs.
There's an existing assessment already for the.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Any further discussion, questions?
I was going to say one of the things I've talked to people in this neighborhood, and they actually really like this because there's the trail by it, and so they get some benefit out of it. Instead of, it's not just a detention basin, they have that recreation opportunity. So I think of this as a model of how detention basins should be as opposed to, it's just a hole in the ground
Yeah.
somewhere. So, like,
Okay. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote unless anyone, do we have a motion?
Yeah, you still,
Yeah, but probably-
yeah, you still need a motion.
Yeah, we probably need a motion in a second.
I move to approve item E8.
second.
Yeah, we're ready.
Director Burke?
Aye.
Director Couch?
I
Director Mayor?
Yes.
President Crowe?
Yes. Okay, so we would have E9, approved resolution 2019-22, initiating the formation of Fawn Meadows Subdivision Open Space Maintenance Zone 27, page 118 of our packet.
So Jim Furtado, after the fact, had brought this to my attention and asked if we would be interested in accepting the maintenance on this open space, or actually detention basin. It's basically an open detention basin, but we were going to give it a designation as open space maintenance zone because if you look at Article 7 of our open space maintenance zone authority in our rules and regulations, it basically states that detention basins are part of that. So it would fall within that. Landscape and Lighting Act in the 218 process allows for detention basins to be part of to be administered through the Landscape and Lighting Act. So and it's historically been the way that we've done it before with other detention basins. So in this subdivision there are no trails, and there's in the landscaping strips are all the responsibility of the property owners. So really the only thing in this subdivision is the detention basin. So this is the initiation. The next step would be sending a ballot out. Since Mr. Furtado is the only owner in the subdivision right now, there would only be one ballot would need to be processed. So staff recommends the board review the engineer's report, attachment 2, and then adopt resolution 2019-22, which is attachment 1 for the approval to initiate formation of the Fawn Meadows subdivision open space maintenance zone number 27.
Any questions or comments? Hey, do I have
I
a
got
motion?
a question. Where is this? I don't.
Oh, that's right.
It's on Tassie. It's all the way at the end of Tassie, off of Sutton. And there's a plot map in the engineer's report that will show you the relationship between Tassie and Dogwood.
Yeah.
Subdivision.
Could you remind me again, the ballot has to be unanimous or over a certain, in this case, it doesn't matter, but just for my own edification.
So,
how does the ballot work again?
Yes, so for this situation, there's of course, and it's a good question to ask because is it a protest ballot? Do you have to have 55%? Do you have to have 50 plus 1? But is it in this situation? The test is 50% plus 1, simple majority.
Any further questions? Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve item E9.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, here we have roll call.
Director Burke?
Aye.
Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
And President Corbett.
Yes. Item F2A, support services, May, June 2019 report. Colleen Travis, finance.
Yep, board member, committee reports first.
I'm sorry, what?
Committee reports first.
Oh. What? I get it. It's not a packet. Okay, I think
Well, we can do staff reports, and then we can go back and do committee reports if that was your.
now I turn the page. Recreational Advisory Committee. Couch Mayo.
Well, we didn't meet, so.
We met in June.
We met in June.
Okay.
I'd like to just make a quick comment that talked to our skateboard guys several times out here, done a wonderful job showing up, and you all do a great job out here for our music and activities and park. It's spectacular. And we finally had a good night the other night.
Had 2 in a row.
Well, yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
A couple times I came out, I had to go home and get my winter jacket and come back.
Yeah. Well,
But it was really nice.
She's my winter jacket.
Well, I
Public,
don't know
yeah.
why-
Public was really,
You guys got
really,
really fun.
I wore my wool sweater.
the public's really enjoying it.
Good.
I'm sweating.
Yeah, we do. But when it works,
Okay. Board member, Area Fund, John Polstad.
Did not meet.
Okay. Redwood Region Economic Development
So
Council.
we had our meeting last time, we had the fish farm folks come out and give their presentation. They had the owners, some corporate guys, and I understand that it's, there's some language issues, it was terrible. They were terrible. And not that what they were trying to do was terrible, it's just so we had a meeting at the Harbor Working Group, which we meet once a month for the last many years. The small cookhouse, and they did it again, and then they had what's her name? She presented. It was a really pretty good presentation. There's a lot of difference in when you're an owner and the head of the corporation, and you say this is this and this is that and thou shalt, and people don't question you, you know, in your the way you conduct yourself and how they aren't capable of answering questions, and she was really good at it. So you may have read in the paper that I made some comments there. And I wanted to point out to everybody that the newspaper guy didn't get there early, he got there late, so I only got the back end of some of the comments that I made. And I was very clear that I wasn't speaking for the 7 uni members of Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District or Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District. I made generalized comments that I did not believe that our ratepayers were going to subsidize this endeavor. I'm in support of the endeavor, any endeavor like that, as long as it's a good project, whether it meets the economic and environmental markers. And so I just want to point that out, that I did not exceed my, position on these things. It was not quoted that well in the paper. It sounded like I was saying, and therefore, that wasn't the case. But then I wanted to also point out that we worked quite a long time putting this together, and it just popped up here not too long ago that the Rural Economic Development Exchange is here, and this is the rejects from all over the state, and they're in town this week. They came up to do their annual meeting here. I just came from, John and I were both at the Coastal Convention meeting, and I went to this meeting over here at the parking lot there for the Vatican. We had a big soiree there, and they were doing it, and then we were going to go out dinner and go. So I made a presence and said hello, and came to our meeting. Tomorrow we're having the working meeting at the what do they call it now? The Eagle House. I don't know if they said a different name now.
No, it's still legal.
Still the Eagle House. So it's an all-day thing there at the Eagle House tomorrow. Working on economic development issues, David, some of the issues that you brought up about housing, all of that. I don't know whether Director Corbett is going to be the coach of this, and I may be some presentations tomorrow for coach of this, but I will be at this most of the day and go back and forth with that. So that's
Okay.
Can I make a point related to that? So we've been talking about this about the fish farm at the municipal customer meetings, and so just so that the board's aware, the municipal customers are all in unanimously in support of the fact that our ratepayers will not be supporting the fish house.
Oh, good.
And I was
Not that I don't like the project, but.
Yeah, I know. No, we all like the project, but
Yeah.
and so one of the things too, this is kind of just into the minutia a little bit, but they're going to have to take raw water, and so the water quality is not conducive to what they need. So there's another big hurdle that they're going to have to, and that's how they're going to treat the water, because the water quality in the Mad River in the wintertime will not sustain the fish. So there's a fairly big monkey wrench in the works right now related to how they're going to treat that water.
The pulp mills too couldn't use the water in time, and they have to put their own clarifiers in.
Sure.
You know, and so you're right. Driscoll brought up a really good point that everybody on the company side kind of well, hadn't thought of that. Is that maybe they might want to actually think about putting it into their business model to do the clarifiers out there, and then have that as a marketing tool for other businesses that they want to,
Use clean water?
Yeah. Now the other thing is that the community, or excuse me, the Humboldt Bay Water District is also entertaining that, well, maybe it's a better idea to have it over here at location, and then maybe they could partner some way. Well, closer.
They can't, because that would mean that they would never be able to remove raw water. They only have one main out there.
Well, you're right, but you're right, and that's one of the drawbacks of that. But anyway, those things are being kind of kicked around, and it could end up being a partnership actually. Nonetheless, it needs to be. I wish our state senator would work harder on economic development than something else he's been working on. And I like him, and I'm going to tell him that I'm going to mention it to him, to he can believe me. So,
I had a comment on it too. I went to one of their meetings and I was talking to the lady who's their local representative, and I was like, well, have you talked to the state water quality board about your permit yet? And they went, no. And I was kind of like, well, gee, that's 2 or 3 years. Right? Didn't get that. So I was kind of not impressed.
Yeah, I think they're further away from opening shop than they.
yeah, they're thinking like 2 years, I mean, that doesn't seem realistic around here for God's sake.
They're looking at probably $2 million clarifier.
Okay, I think we sort of need to move on.
Yeah, let's go.
McKinneyville Senior Center.
I was not notified to attend. I wonder, is Director Barsanti all right?
She's there.
Oh, she's there? Okay.
She's there. All I know from the meeting is that the seniors want to put a barn across the way to put. I think there's a bunch of random medical equipment in that closet behind us, and I think if you open that door, it's kind of like that closet in the old situation comedies where everything falls out on you. So they're wanting to move everything over into that. So we kind of gave you some criteria about what they could do as far as the barn, and then we also we also asked them to, we were going to need clarification in writing from the county as to whether or not they needed a building permit for the size, because they're talking about, what was it, 16 by 8? Yeah, 16 by 8, which, and James and I are pretty sure that they're going to get a building permit to go that big.
Once they acquire that building. You know, just between you and me and the fence posts, I see that as being a very advantageous break in the deal.
Well, the service that the seniors are providing is pretty fantastic. So they take in equipment, walkers, wheelchairs even, and then redistribute. So it's a fantastic service to the community. But I hear you on the building permit.
Can I get my pins from you?
Okay. I'm going to go audit committee, nothing to report, although if you see the Colleen's report, you'll see I'm swarming up. G, water task force, Burke.
Nothing to report. But I'm remembering we got an email from Hank Seaman. There's going to be a meeting coming up. Did you get that, Greg? I didn't write it down here.
Oh, is that for Sigma?
But it's for the EEL. We were attending those, right?
We're part of that.
Yeah. So is it the board's pleasure that we keep attending those county meetings?
And I've never been on that mailing list.
And I don't know who does that, John. I'm supposed to be on the mailing list, and I want to be messaged on the mailing list for the EO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think Greg might be a better contact than me.
I go whoever. Greg said he wouldn't give me.
I'm not getting them either.
Yeah, we want them.
Okay.
And you know, I definitely want.
All right. I need to go back to employee negotiations. Colin, work on the couch.
Well, we have nothing to report.
All right.
I didn't mind things good.
Ad hoc, no drugs and toxics. Down the drain, Burke.
Nothing to report.
McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee, Burke.
So we had 2 meetings since this board has last met. In June, we met and the Humboldt County Planning Department presented about the county-wide zoning map changes and how it relates to McKinleyville. The motion made was that the MCMAC recommends the parcels in the McKinleyville planning area which are proposed to have their zoning converted to mixed use or to service commercial be held off and rezoned in conjunction with the town center community planning process, and that nearby property owners be properly notified prior to rezoning discussions. And at the July meeting,
What's the issue there?
what's the issue?
Between the two positions? I mean, some for land use cities have something not.
It's to align it with the McKinleyville community plan.
Okay.
Because there's going to be that effort led by the county to look at
I got you.
the town center zoning. And so since there's overlap there.
Yeah, I made the motion. So my perception, and I think the gist of the conversation related to why we wanted to kind of take on the mixed use along with the town center stuff is related to the fact that the mixed use it's vague and very weak, and we wanted to be able to actually get in there and be able to maybe make some substantive changes to the mixed use because right now mixed use is only above and in the designations, not all the commercial areas are zoned mixed use also, so we just wanted to have a chance to be able to get back in there and maybe have some say-so related to what mixed use would look like in McKinney.
Well, in the old days, when I called the matter, as a same percent. Now, I'm sorry, get back to Mary.
All right, thank you for adding more, Greg. Thanks for your motion on that. The June meeting, so the sheriff comes and reports every meeting, and he's returning to town.
It's Lieutenant Miller, Kevin Miller.
Lieutenant Miller's back in town. So he gave us a great update, And then we heard a presentation from Jacob Cressy, who operates Humboldt Regeneration. So it's just an informational item about a new brewery location that's going to be down sort of across from Kmart. We then discussed 2 items related to the routes in and out of McKinleyville. One was to form an ad hoc committee to look at the maintenance and beautification of the routes in and out. So primarily, as I understand it, the mowing, and supporting, finding ways to make sure that the routes in and out of McKinleyville are well kept. And right now, there's some issues there. So there's an ad hoc committee formed. Greg's a part of that committee. And the second committee formed was spun off of this proposal that the county submitted with support from RCAA and this community group that's been looking at trails and alternative transportation. So a proposal was submitted to look at what was dubbed the Gateway Project, which would be from Anna Sparks Way to 101. And the idea there is as one of the highest priorities, at least among a small group of people, to address safety of transportation. And so the proposal went to Caltrans and it was rejected, but it gave a great opportunity to open the dialogue with Caltrans. And so Caltrans was welcoming a broader scope proposal to look at transportation needs and safety throughout McKinleyville. So the county, also has an interest in prioritizing. They say you open up the McKinleyville, the community plan, and you look at the maps of trails, and it's just a spaghetti noodle mess, and it'd be hard for anybody to figure out what are the highest priorities. So the ad hoc committee is to pull together these interest groups and help support in the near term resubmission of a proposal to Caltrans that will allow there to be a more robust planning process for the community. The ad hoc committee meetings will be open to the public and will be publicly noticed. And the first one, we are trying to bring it together on August 25th. So it's going to come up quickly, August 25th, and then the third Wednesday in September. Is that right? Or is it September 9th? Where are we right now? Is it August? Yeah, August and September will be the first 2 meetings. And we're doing them as quickly as possible to get some input into this Caltrans proposal resubmission. So, what's that? Excuse me?
So, and also,
Any comments?
wasn't and there was also Caltrans was getting ready to start up a prioritization or what exactly?
Right, district-wide transportation plan.
Yeah.
You're right.
That would help prioritize projects.
There's a lot of issues with Bella Vista, I realize. But school road needs to really get a lot more movement there. Going out of it's going to go to Bella Vista. I can see some maybe enhanced movement that way. But if you can, one of the things I hear quite a bit is coming up and putting a stoplight up on Bella Vista. And man, I just wanted to just say how bad. If you ever come through there at a certain time of the day, you see how much traffic is pulled off that freeway coming off that off-ramp. If there was a stoplight up there, it would be disastrous. On the bottom end, anyway, I'll bring that up.
All right. Cornerstone Committee, Couch.
We did not meet. I had a question though about the regeneration brewery. Did anyone ask about their waste?
No. Do we know about their waste, their plan for waste? I mean,
Waste, as in your solid waste?
As in high strength brewery waste?
Yeah.
Oh, so he has an industrial discharge permit. And he
And he's small
And he
scale.
meters, yeah, he only brews 4 kegs at a time. So and he meters it at, I don't know, there was some criteria that was set for him.
It's not getting bigger.
Of course, he's going to be big. He's going to be much bigger when he moves to his new location. At that point in time, he will have a fairly change in his discharge permit. His land use classification will change too.
Good question, though.
And so then that takes us to Groundwater Sustainability Committee. I put in the communication I got from the county into our packet. It was disappointing that the Department of Water Resources turned down the application for an exemption. A lot of it is that we didn't have triggers to manage it, but there's never been a problem. So no one has developed those, and they want it for 10 years' time. So that's quite a challenge. I think we're going to see whether we can have existing monitoring programs or something else count for that. But we did not have a management plan because there hasn't been a problem since they've been measuring records for probably 60 years. And it's very well defined because they have wells right along the saltwater intrusion line on both sides. And they know if that saltwater intrusion line goes up to literally 10 yards, they'll know about it. They've not had that problem. But anyway, this is what the Department of Water Resources wants, and people will try and figure out the best cost-effective way to deliver it. And I do believe at the end of the day, the River Basin deserves an exemption in the sense that the water pumped out of it, and I might be wrong, but I think the figure was only 5% doesn't go down during the summer. It immediately recharges with the rain. So they just can't, it's hard to even measure effects in that basin, and that's why they don't have all these triggers. But I'm sure we'll adopt triggers, and I'm sure we'll see whether there's a procedure where we don't have to have 10 years worth of data.
One of the problems, when you look at their map, at their statewide map on that, it's how they've got, how they have it colored. And so we're in the particular color.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's,
anyway, but I thought this was the best way to inform the board is what I got. The other item, well, let's go right on. I think it goes to, well, go to staff reports. I'll take up.
LAFCO.
Okay, boy, I don't know what's the matter with me.
So we did have a LAFCO meeting. We approved Blue Lake Sphere of Influence, and then we had an agenda item that was pretty interesting because it was water related, and that was Garberville wanted to provide water to the Tooby Ranch. And I didn't think that was controversial because their water plant is next door and they have a big water main. But the neighbors are just vehemently opposed to letting them have any water there because they're afraid they're going to turn it into a rock concert venue or something.
and that's the Tooby Ranch Park.
Right. And so Garberville Sanitary District was going to provide them with a 3/4-inch meter, and I pointed out to everybody that pretty much limits what you can do, and they're being responsive. I don't know if the people were so vehemently opposed taught that, but I thought that was pointed out that they were being responsible in providing water, meeting the giving
Now
water.
that they've got a 3/4-inch meter, now they don't have to go back to LAFCO they can basically upsize that meter to any size they want.
Yeah, but they don't, they're not, they just, there's 3 houses there, and people live off, they have a 15,000-gallon water tank that fills in the spring, and then they run out of water.
They've got a nice garden, green,
Yeah.
vegetable garden. The farming's all dry.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Go to staff reports. Support services.
Okay. Just a couple of brief has a little over $1 million in the trust account for its biosolids disposal operation, which is good. Total customer adjustments at the end of June ended up being slightly over 100% of the budget for that sub-line item. So $18,000 is opposed to a budget of $16,500, but that's not large enough to bring back our budget adjustment, and it's definitely not as large of a discrepancy as we've had in some years prior. Total board travel as of June 30th was only 73.5% of the budget, so that was good. The first testing sample for the audit was requested by the auditors and sent, and out of that information, they pulled their sample and they did their first on-site visit. The year-end closing process is started, and the next on-site visit for the auditors is scheduled for October 8th and 9th at this time. We will be contacting the audit committee to get this set up there so that they can talk with the auditors. Final audit is tentatively scheduled to be completed for the December board meeting. That's been our hope for some years, and often holidays and other things get in the way, but that's the current plan. The most important thing I wanted to bring to the board's attention has to do with the treasurer's report for June, and that is the Humboldt County Auditor Controller's Office has been experiencing a certain amount of turnover and adjustment after the departure of Joe Mellett. They informed me that the final appropriations for June would not be posted to our accounts in time for me to include them in the June treasurer's report. In fact, I was working on this treasurer's piece today. They did find that they got me the information, but they didn't get it to me soon enough for the published board packet. So the revenue lines for Measure B and the tax appropriations line for the Parks Department are short by the amount of the June appropriation posting. But I needed to just let the board know that so we don't look at those numbers and go, it's not quite that bad. It's, we do have one more item. I got those
refresh my memory. The amount that we budgeted for revenue from the Measure B and the general fund came in close to.
The Measure B amount was like within $250.
Okay.
We were really close. The tax appropriation was a little bit higher than what we had budgeted, but with the loss of revenue on other in programs, the net surplus for parks this year is going to be very, very small. We're very, very close to breakeven. But and we look at the moment in the June Treasurer's report as published, it shows a loss,
right,
which actually will not stand because there is enough in the June appropriation to kick us right up to the edge of breakeven.
Great job budgeting. Coming right on the target.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
I will call on James.
Nothing to report.
Glad you got that deep voice.
The radio voice.
We really look forward to it. And with that.
Well, I had a question.
Oh, so you can't get on.
I had a question. I can see under the maps completed in the GIS that there's a map being developed of homeless camps and collector for parks. Can you describe a little bit about that effort?
Well, if you guys just, you could probably maybe bring it to you now that we've got it running to show it to you. But we have one of our GIS guy, Brian, found an app that is very useful that the guys can take and load on their phone. And they take out in the field with it, they walk the property, find a homeless camp, they can mark their location, back to the mapping at the office. They submit a picture with that app, and so if you click on the dot, it shows which we're using it because we get out in the woods and we have a parcel within parcels. It's hard to tell if we're on our parcel or somebody else's because it's not exactly a fence line across there. So it helps show us that we're on our property or somebody else's property. What we're using for is then taking the pictures so that I can see like okay, this is what we have. We go out to a cleanup and we get an accurate picture of it, and then change those dots as they're completed to greens or whatever, kind of what we have left to do. So it's a really nice app that we're also using for our manhole inspections and documentation, and also moving into these incorporating our hydrants and our valve operating inspections, and that also so that we're able to track the progress of those items as they move along. So it's a really neat app. We're all really excited about it. Very glad it's by and had to use up the field and whether they really destructible or non-destructible case so that they work it. And he tested it, which is great. So
Yeah, I could break it.
yeah. So so the guys take out the field, they can walk along and submit the data for the manhole that we were doing on paper and binders and submit that into a GIS mapping. And so it's working out really neat.
That's fantastic. And it is like Director Corbett said, getting as much information as we can in the GIS and really using that tool can be really beneficial. So.
Yeah, and I can show you after on my phone. I have the app. So
Yeah, it's called Collector for ArcGIS, and you basically load it on your phone when you log in. And the one that I have on my phone right now is for the one for being able to geolocate the homeless camps. But we do have the app for doing manhole inspections. We were basically had binders full of forms that we would fill out.
Lots of binders.
Binders for how many? Would you have 3 binders for manholes?
Oh gosh, no, we have probably 9 binders.
9 binders just for manholes.
And 5 for valves.
And 5 for valves.
And 1 for hydrants.
And 1 for hydrants.
All across the back of the wall. Yeah.
So basically, what we've done now is we've consolidated all that so that now that information, when you do an observation or you do maintenance on any part of the water infrastructure, it's actually stored it's stored on the GIS in the attributes for that specific piece of equipment.
Yeah.
This was something we looked into years ago. Like we wanted to go this direction, but there was a heavy fee that went with it too. I mean, it's like and so getting it for free right now is really nice. It's part of I don't say free, but we have a service plan for our GIS. It's coming, it comes with it now. So we're able to now look at that app as part of our service plan and utilize it.
Fantastic.
That sounds good till there's quick fire.
What's that?
That sounds good until the earthquake and the fire hit. Can anybody access that?
No.
Could like the sheriff access it or the shelter by any chance? In terms of connectivity?
We could give them access to it.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking that might be beneficial. People that are actually out, in terms of the homeless stuff.
Further comment? I'm going to call on Parks and Rec.
Nothing further to add.
Barry?
I'd love to see how the application's coming together for the Prop 68 to renovate Kirsten Park. I think it's fantastic. And one of the things I knew that was in here is looking at vegetating the side over here. And so, if we wanted to consider any other type of landscaping needs, looking at grants like this would provide maybe that kind of opportunity.
So the application was mailed on Monday.
big, wonderful changes. It's really quite an awesome plan.
And
Yeah.
those trees, if the grant comes in, the trees are not going to be an issue.
All right.
I do have one other comment, which is that it looks like in the RAC meeting, Scott Bender was making motions, but he doesn't appear in the members present or absent. Just in case you're going off of a list, I wanted to make sure that he made it up there.
Thank you. It's in my handwritten notes.
Any other comments or questions? We'll call the general manager, Greg Garcetti.
So anyway, I just wanted to give Leslie kudos for putting the Prop 64 grant together. What was the final tally? $3.6 million.
3.8.
Oh, 3.8. That's right.
5248.
So
No change.
no, it didn't change. It was 3.6 last time. I rounded down. So anyway, I just wanted to give Leslie kudos for putting that together. It's very comprehensive. If we get that grant, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to need to be done in a very short amount of time. And also, I would like to also point out that James has been working with a consultant, and we're working right now on and this is brought up on related to the brewery. And when we did our last rate study, we changed a few of our land use classifications related to how we're charging for sewer, and we added a brewery category in our land use classifications that we didn't have before. So not only will Six Rivers, but also this new brewery will also be required, and they'll be paying for the strength of the sewers that they're just actually discharging to us, as opposed to what it was before. And James has been working with we should be just about ready to start. The work plan was approved. The sampling work plan was approved, and it's got to go to the Regional Water Quality Control Board for approval. And then we're actually going to start our sampling, and we'll bring those back as reports to the board related to what we find. But we have to go out and sample the system. Since we had upgraded our process at the wastewater management facility, our old sewer use ordinance was not in our local limits. We're not adequate anymore because of our level of treatment has increased so much. So, as far as the general manager's report, I don't really have anything more to add, other than I would like at this point in time to provide my notice to the board. Would you please share that with your staffs?
Up here, and I was panicking. August 7th, no!
So anyway, we'll be bringing this. This will have to come back in multiple iterations back to the board. There'll be some things that we'll need to talk about related to getting direction from the board on how we want to handle the executive search and whether we want to do that in-house. I'm pretty sure we're probably going to want to do that in-house, but we'll probably need something formal session plan back to the board so that you can kind of see what you've already approved related to that and see if we need any modifications and things like that. And at this point in time, I just want to let the board know that I'll be supportive in however I can related to the search and the onboarding of the next general manager.
Well, when there's that, and here you go, I'm not surprised. And people have to move on, but I did want to say this has been a tremendous experience for me.
I couldn't agree more. It's been a pleasure to be in the board GM relationship with you in your role. And as I talked with Greg earlier today, I think the silver lining here is that perhaps we could do some really great media for the district that not only highlights Greg and his career, but uses that message about what the services district is all about and the services we provide, but really to give, with the underlying, give kudos to you for the work you've done here for years. And then get ready to roll into the 50th anniversary of CSDA next year. So I really support using your retirement as, the silver lining here is to be able to talk about the great work that's been accomplished through your tenure. Thank you, Craig.
And the positive things that should come from a fresh mind and a little bit of perspective too.
Right, the vision for the future. Thank you, Craig.
And then I just want to say for clarity's sake that we see this, it's filed, and accepted. And that way we have very clear demarcation. Anything else?
Well, I would also like to welcome April to the game here. It's great to have you on board. I'm glad we found somebody with great skills and experience, and it sounds like you've been just slipping right into your duties here at the district.
I feel like such a heathen for not introducing April at the beginning of the meeting. April hit the ground running. She started on the 22nd, and at the beginning of this week, which was her first, the beginning of her second full week of employment with McKinneyville Community Services District, she basically got the agenda dropped in her lap and said, "Here, this is the procedure. This is the folder on the public drive where everything's at. Have at it." And she did a bang-up job of getting everything ready for us. And the continuity and the quality of the agenda is amazing compared to, you wouldn't know that there's somebody who's only worked for the district for 2 weeks put this agenda together.
Well, I just want to concur. Stole my thunder of President support. Welcome her, but it's okay to have more than one. So we really appreciate having you on board. And she survived an orientation for me, but from Greg, so she's definitely got a stout character.
That should be after duty pay.
I also want to thank David for serving on the interim. You really filled in well, and we really, there was a gap there, and you picked right up on it. And so I really appreciate that for you on all this.
Yeah, and let me just reiterate that having David on staff and his willingness to do 2 jobs made the transition from Emily to April pretty painless.
We were some of us were setting up BS the other day about doing an MCSD Jeopardy game. And what we were going to do was we were just going to write down addresses and throw them at Dave. And he would automatically tell us who's there.
I think you could do one with faces, and you'd be able to tell you what their names are, and then you could do one with where you gave an address and you could associate it with who they. Yeah.
Or a name, and then he'll do an address.
Yeah.
Or what car they drive. And what day of the week they're driving that car.
and which ones demand that David take their money when they come to the window.
Under President's report, we already took this to sample groundwater management. Second part is a negative headline HSU garden. Also state parks garden, a similar negative headline, and they were all over surplus funds, and they were all over, in a way, reserve funds. So I want to say this is a sensitive issue at quite a few different levels. First of all, to answer Board Member Mayo, when we go after we get the reserve policy, then we've got to read it to keep the state scrubbies out of it, and then we have to read it to keep our grant eligibility. So the whole system's really stacked against you, prudently supplying them. But there are a couple of errors that I think HSU did. They weren't open about it. And when the public, it's a discovery event, oh my God, you got all this money. They indicated that they had to lay people off because they were going bankrupt. They weren't going bankrupt, and it's very important to portray this, that you're not, if you have economic troubles or something, you're not terminating people because they're going bankrupt. You're trying to protect the public by operating in a business-like manner and making sure the money's wisely spent, and you can't have losing operations. So how you portray it's pretty important. Portraying it often is pretty important. And I hope that we develop from staff sort of a set of guidelines or talking points, and that we have stuff in our newsletter, because it's very important, and you can see the public tends to look at it, well, you got cash in the account, you can spend it for anything you want. Well, that's not true if you want to operate prudently financially. There's a reason why it's so hard for districts to set up reserves with these public attitudes. And if David Ellsbush was here, he would be going, he's in the brand of conservatives that think the less money the district operates on, the better for the people, as opposed to the conservatives who think you need to set aside depreciation to keep your business going. So I just put this out here that we have to talk about it carefully. We have to publicize what we're doing, and just be in front of the curve, because this is the second one I've seen blow up. Now, in addition, HSU handled it about as poorly as you could, and it came out in several other issues that were handled as poorly as possible, starting with KHSU and the football program and some others. But it's a warning. It's a warning that we have to be very careful. We're going to replace the price early, so it costs you less money if we do it later.
John, I appreciate that whole line of thought process, and that's why the California special districts are especially running well, and especially responsive to their ratepayers and the public. Municipalities get away with this crap and do it. The state does it. They do it constantly because they aren't bottom line responsive to their constituents. Special districts are, and that's one of the beauties and one of the reasons we protect our special districts.
And it's also a little bit of what's the balanced budget. So the county, let's say, puts zero down for road maintenance, and then their budget's balanced, and everyone goes home and they're happy. Well, no. We know they're going to have to lay off people to pay for the road repairs eventually. And, for example, we had an entity who took a loan to pay up their pension plan. That's fine. But if they didn't change the underlying operations, they're going to have to lay somebody off, but it's hidden. And so it's very hard for public agencies to be stable, make the adjustments necessary to be a firm business footing, and play well to the public. So I just put this in as a caution, and how you talk about it is pretty darn important. So I'd almost like us to get some talking points and how we're going to address it. So we're going to be ahead of the curve, we're going to be up front, and we're going to believe that we're basically trying to run the system the best way we know how.
The inability to be able to judge on
Board member?
I have something.
Yeah.
So I want to bring up the idea, like I mentioned earlier, about whether it would serve the district to have another advisory committee. So just food for thought. I know how much time Leslie puts into the Recreation Advisory Committee. I'm not suggesting that sort of an operating mechanism, but I'm thinking about areas in which district staff might want outside assistance, like I mentioned, could be and it could be land use planning or land use planning and management or something like that, where we have so many people in this community who want to support the district and want to be involved. At least that's my experience. And if we had the right thing for that the staff desired, so I'm not bringing this forth as something that I want to see happen. I want to present it as something for consideration. Is that we could tap into a lot of expertise that's right here in this community. So that's just one idea. Let it fall with the board president where it may. And the other would be how do we make good on the initiative to develop better district-county relations? And I wonder if that ends up falling in our active committees. I mean, I think if I remember some of the dialogue around, public, or how do we put it? Was it government relations or whatnot?
I think 2x2.
2x2s, right. How do we formalize a process like that so that we're sure that when we have those 2x2s, we're addressing needs that the district has? If it's, maybe there's like an emergency response 2x2 and two directors go and meet with the fire department once a year, just so that dialogue is open, or maybe it's, more specifically public works, or, is it board supervisor? So I don't know how that works and what the staff would feel that is most useful, but I'm interested in trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that we'll be bringing the strategic plan back to the board, and one of the areas in the strategic plan is building partnerships. So I'm sure that there's room and latitude in that area for increasing our partnerships related to that. I think that the only thing that I would be hesitant about, or that I would say would be very important, is that the board stick to interactions with other elected officials and not have an elected official staff sort of interactions to leave those to our staff to interact with the staff and the board members to interact with the other elected officials. And but I could definitely see the having those meetings and having a mixture of staff and elected officials together during those meetings. When we did the 2x2s, we always had elected officials and staff together because really, when you have your nuts and bolts sort of things, the things that are relevant right at this moment, and then you've got your policy issues and things that the elected officials can talk about that are more long-term or more 30,000-foot level things. So I think that, but both of those things can be accomplished in those 2x2s.
All right, any other comments? I'll think about this, Mayor. I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Sorry, I got something. So you all probably got an email, or you should have gotten an email from me regarding a Form 470 that is required. I did double check with the FPPC. In the exceptions, it kind of is a little ambiguous, and so it looked like you probably didn't need to do it. But because of the possibility that, like I said, in June, everybody who attended 2 meetings did make more than $200. So You will be required to complete one. I have copies here if you need a hard copy, or if you already happen to send it to me. You don't need to do that, but I have it here.
Okay, I just waited till that. Why is $200?
It's whatever that's the
I've
FPV's.
been here for years, and there's been times when we've had 4 and 5, nobody's ever said anything about it.
And when I talked to them, because when I talked to the people at the elections office, they said that they were going under the assumption that whether you were paid a stipend versus a salary, and they actually told me to contact the FPVC. I contacted them, and the FPVC said it doesn't matter that, and so they said to move forward from where you're going now, instead of trying to look back.
So I'm still not, I still understand. We need to fill this form out every year. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct. That's correct. Yep.
Do we have to keep track of the money?
No. In fact, the form is just basically, if you don't even have a campaign, you're probably not going to have much to disclose.
Or did we find out? Is that something we filled out during our campaign?
If you had a campaign, you may fill out a 460. I did not find any for any of you guys, so I don't think that if you have a campaign.
This is something new the county ran up the flagpole with us.
Whatever, it doesn't matter all the time.
Dennis, I think when you file, you have to fill one out with a county.
It's only if you are going to do some sort of campaign funding and that sort of thing typically, but if you don't have a campaign that you're like generating money from, but you also make more than $200 per month possibly, then you have to
So
fill it out.
is it still the same as it's if you don't make any more than $1,200 or is it any?
It's actually more if you don't make any more, or you don't make or spend more than $2,000.
Gotcha.
However, if you do make $200 as a salary or a stipend,
Okay. Anything else?